In this video, I'm going to be showing the creation process and the results of a set of dice inspired by Bruno from Encanto. So to begin, I am starting with crinkling up and cutting up some little pieces of mylar. I get mine from OOAK Artist Emporium, and while most dice makers tend to dip or soak their mylar in resin beforehand, I live a little bit dangerously and just test my luck with shoving it into the molds and pouring resin over the top. However, that does make it much more prone to air bubbles, so you do need to take your time to be sure you are degassing and getting rid of those bubbles. So I'll be mixing up 3 base colors for this set. First, a semi-transparent green, starting with a kiwi green alcohol ink, then this metallic peridot, and 2 different color pigments from Chromatic Castle. My idea going into this set was to try my best to keep it on the light and bright side, especially with green and black, which you'll see here in a moment. It can tend to get very dark and villainous very quickly, but I wanted this to be more reflective of Bruno's visions and his powers rather than coming off as kind of the evil way he's introduced in the movie. So for the second color, I am mixing up an opaque black with this black just resin paste. And for the last color that I'll be doing, I'm going to be taking just plain clear resin and then throwing in both of those pigments from Chromatic Castle that we used earlier for the green to give it kind of, again, just some brightness to offset that green and black and add a little bit more color variation to the set. Then it is time to do the pouring, so I am taking my dice molds and doing first just a layer of that clear with the glowy green in it over the mylar, giving it some time to sink down, making sure it kind of gets its way to the bottom before covering that with some of the green, and then a little bit more clear, again, just to keep the colors very bright, making sure they're not too concentrated, too dark. And then I decided to try something a little bit risky. So I'm taking this gold Piñata alcohol ink, and my hope was that this would kind of splay out and sink a little bit to be representative of Bruno's sand. Then over that alcohol ink, I did another layer of clear, a little bit of that black, just enough to kind of cover it, and then again some more clear over top of that black. Took my heat gun, that's what I used to pop bubbles. Tried to pop bubbles, let this degas as much as it could. And then it was time to put the lids on and pop my molds into my pressure pot. And just a quick note while you see me starting to demold these, because I do get asked a lot, I make my own molds. These are not available for purchase anywhere and I do not sell them, but I do have a couple of videos up on how I make my molds, and I'm sure at some point I will end up posting those on YouTube as well when I have the time and energy to do so. But look, there's dice! So these are the dice fresh out of the molds. I'll show them off a little bit more slowly and close up later on in the video, but I was absolutely thrilled with how these came out. These are not fully finished yet. As you can see, they are fresh out of the molds, and you can see on some of the faces there's a little bit of roughness, especially the cap faces. So these do still need to be sanded. They also need to be polished. And of course, they need to have their numbers painted, and it'll take me quite a while to do so. But I am horribly impatient, so of course I need to show off the dice like this, which is what we would call the raw form of the dice. And I think I pulled off what I was trying to go for when I was creating this set. They didn't get too dark, thank goodness. That was my biggest concern with using black. And I think they're pretty reflective of Bruno's abilities, starting with that blue, green, really shiny, gorgeous mylar. Thank goodness the gold also worked out. I think it looks like sand falling through the dice set, which again was precisely what I wanted it to do, so I was very thankful. And you still have that little bit of black to reflect the way that the character is introduced initially in the movie, with Camilo explaining that when he calls your name, it all fades to black. While probably just a little bit of bogus meant to scare Mirabel, I still wanted to add that bit of character because it is so iconic from the We Don't Talk About Bruno song. So overall, this was me trying my hand at representing Bruno as a character, but in dice form, and I'm pretty darn happy with how everything looks. I think they represent him pretty well, and even if they don't, I still think that they are quite nice looking dice. So that is all for this video. I do hope to have more videos posted in the future, even if they are just reposts from TikTok. You can find all of my socials and other information down in the description below. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and hope to see y'all in the not too distant future. Thanks for hanging out and looking at some dice with me.